Let me know when we're live.
I hope I spelled January right.
It's got a J and a Y. So
I was typing kind of fast.
all right, so we are at the top of the hour. I show exactly high noon Eastern time. And I see that Nicholas has been able to join us. Happy New Year, Nick. Glad to have you with us. So let's call January 11th meeting to order. Khaditra, could you assist us with the roll call, please?
Sure will. Scott Iden.
I'm here.
Michelle Durner.
Here.
Barbara Marchioni.
Here.
Diane Holt.
Here.
Dixie Newsome. Dixie.
I can read her lips. She says here. And she's
here.
Cheryl Hickman.
Here.
All right, everyone is here, and we have Steve Pond and Khaditra.
Hello.
Happy New Year, y'all.
I'm here too. You didn't read my name. This is Nick Potter.
Oh, Nick, I thought I said your name. I'm sorry, I put an X beside it. Nicholas Potter.
Here.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm having some audio difficulty. Thank you.
And Nick, Khaditra won't get her usual post-meeting ice cream cone because she failed to roll call you. So again, Happy New Year, you guys. I trust that everybody had a wonderful holiday season. I, for the first time in years, really had no PTO left. So that was a strange occurrence, having to actually work through all of those holiday weeks and days and things while so many people were off and having fun. But I sure hope that you guys had a wonderfully blessed holiday season and a Happy New Year. Our first item that we need to look at is approval of the agenda. So before we actually look to approve that, have you guys had an opportunity to look over the sections in there, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yes.
Do we have any adds, changes, deletes? Khaditra, anything that's hot off the presses that may impact what we have under discussion and action?
No, we're good to go.
All right. Well, in that case, then, I believe we need a motion for the approval of the agenda. So if one of you guys could please a motion, and then one of you second.
Diane, I so move.
I second it. This is Cheryl.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Cheryl. Khaditra, could we roll call that real quickly?
Sure. Scott.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Dixie. Nicholas.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Paula.
Having some problems.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Nicholas, I missed your yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's jump into our section number 4, our management reports. And that means that Mr. Pond has the stage.
Well, thank you so much. Happy New Year, everybody. I was having technical issues as well, so I'm on the phone. Please raise your hand or give me a thumbs down if there's any difficulty. Happy New Year from Peak. We have opened. We are rocking and rolling. Winter sports continue, and they actually wrap up this week. Please join us anytime. There's a link for all of our sports in today's email. We will be starting soccer tryouts, so our spring sport is going to be ladies soccer, and that's going to be going on up the road at Seymour Fields. We are still highly enrolled. We had several students leave us at the end of Thanksgiving and then December, but we are rapidly enrolling students from the wait list. Most of those were family moves, job changes, transitions. We always find those happening around the times of spring break, Thanksgiving break, and winter break. We still remain open for in-person learning. Since we sent this to you last week, we've had several more students and a few faculty exposed to COVID-infected people. So we're up to around 74, 75 total people that have been impacted. Most of these are coming in the 2 to 14-day range of exposure, which would mean their winter break, either the Christmas holiday, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day celebrations, but very little of that has been spread through school from what we can tell through tracing. Most of our folks who are quarantining at the beginning of last week are coming back this week, and we're delighted to hear that parents have said they've tested negative, which means although they were exposed, they didn't get the COVID. But we continue to require masking. We're continuing to sanitize as soon as people enter or exit the building, as well as in and out of every classroom. And we have moved our tables apart for kindergarten through fifth grade. We've adjusted our lunch schedule to allow one more lunch period, which kindergarten through fifth grade means that there are only 2 grades worth of students versus 3 at a time in the lunchroom. And then middle school lunch, we have expanded the capacity by moving tables further apart. So they have more space between tables as well, which we want to make sure we have the maximum space available within our learning day and not taking away any instructional time. We also continue to monitor our students' performance in the classrooms. We're approaching the end of Q2. We'll have the North Carolina Check-in 1 assessment coming in February, and then we'll have more data to adjust for the latter third of the school year. And we'll begin our tutoring as well as our what we call academic boot camp. That'll be April and May, but we already have our plans and structures in place to be able to monitor student learning and provide the differentiated support that we may need throughout the second semester. We've also planned out our summer learning program at Peak. That's going to be held starting June 15th, which is 3 school days after the current school year ends. It's a Wednesday. And the EOG summer learning program and remediation will run through June 29th. And that'll allow students in 3rd through 8th grade math and ELA, as well as science for those who struggled on their end of grade test and didn't demonstrate proficiency. They'll have 2 full weeks of 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. each day that they'll be on campus to be able to work with teachers in small groups and individually, and then retake the test to have another opportunity to demonstrate their proficiency. The camp that will extend the longest is the 3rd grade Read to Achieve camp, which has a minimum number of hours restriction. So it requires us to come back July 11th through 15th to provide an entire another week. And they're actually going to go from 8 to 2 each day with a half hour for lunch, which allow us to hit that state requirement for additional hours. Because it is 3rd grade reading, it has those extra guidelines and laws that require the additional time. And then they will retake their test on July the 15th. And then we'll also start our conferences coming up at the end of this month for the second semester. And again, we're also talking about a hire later on today. So we appreciate your support with that. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have at this time.
I had a question. You said that the summer learning program for EOG will run from June 15th through June 29th?
Correct.
Okay, and what's
and
the time
the
frame?
additional week will be for 3rd grade. What's that? Sorry.
What's the time frame?
They'll get here at 8. They'll leave at 12. So it's at least 3.5 hours a day with a break in between and the arrival and departure time. Except for 3rd grade reading, which will be 8 to 2 each day with a half hour for lunch.
Okay, and the retest for 3rd grade is July 16th, you said?
15th, it'll be the last day of their camp,
Okay.
Which is the same June 15th through 29th, as well as July 11th through 15th.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Deetra, do we have a copy of that, of the summer learning program or
It's
anything
in
where
the
we've got it?
principal report.
Okay, that's what did I just not click on the right?
We typically just discuss them. There's not really a document.
A document or a display. Okay, because I know that we were looking to approve that summer learning program
Mm-hmm.
this meeting.
Yeah, it's under 4.
Number 4,
Yeah,
right.
I think
I
so.
just didn't know if we had it
Yeah.
like repackaged in a separate document. So that's fine, just asking.
God, this
Sorry,
is Donna.
Coach,
I'm sorry. I thought I understood Mr. Pond to say that it's in his principal's report. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes. Under number
It's in
4.
number 4, fourth bullet under number 4, key initiatives.
Because Scott, to your point, my recommendation certainly would be if the board is approving something, particularly with some level of detail like that you have a document in front of you.
That's
And
kind
I'll
of where
defer to
my,
the board as to whether, the information in Steve's written report along with his oral report is sufficient. It may very well be, but I would recommend, as you're commenting, that if you're going to vote on something, that you have it pretty clearly set forth in front of you.
it's kind of where my head was on it. I don't want to delay any actions on,
It's not an action item.
sorry, Khaditra, say that again? I apologize.
Sorry, it's not listed as an action item. It was just the discussion item under management reports.
Yeah, sorry, my understanding was that it wasn't being approved till April. I just wanted to share what we have
Right.
sketched out as of now, because it's under.
All right, okay,
a management
okay. I just,
Just as a plan.
because on page 3 of our package that was sent to us, the way Sarah had worded this is stating that our formal approval of the summer learning program will be requested at this board meeting as well. If it does not have to be, it's January, if it doesn't have to be addressed, I would like to see us go ahead and have that as a document that can be separated out, so that if we ever need to make reference to it, that it is a exhibit that is separate from a monthly report. Nothing fancy. I mean, quite frankly, we could take the content that's in the principal's report and just, it seems redundant to do so, but basically just repackage it entitled under our, peak summer learning, or what are we calling it? Summer learning program. So let's look to just go ahead and take care of that in February then.
Steve, Scott, I'm sorry, this is Donna. I don't want to belabor the point, but I would note that on page 3 of your packet, as you say, there is a sentence that would suggest this board meeting, but I think if you read the whole paragraph, it says that the program is supposed to be identified by April, and then your formal approval will be requested at this meeting. I guess I'm just going to suggest that this is referring to April. Sounds like you're all on the same page. You'll have something in writing whenever you vote, and maybe it'll be February, but perhaps there's a plan that it'll be April.
Well, if it's something that we already have the content of and we're looking for it to be repackaged into a separate exhibit so that can be recorded or referred to separately outside of the principal's report, I say unless you guys have any objections, I say let's just go ahead and mark that down for a February action item. Really, it doesn't even require discussion, I believe. It would just be review of what we've already seen and then vote on it.
I think that's a good plan.
I'm fine with that.
I agree.
Okay, as long as there's no objections. All righty. So questions for Steve on the remainder of the content? Any board, do we have questions or details we want to drill down on anything? Dixie is, I can read her lips. I can read Dixie's lips. She said no. I'm getting better at that, Dixie. So Steve, I have one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Any of the attrition that we've experienced, whatever, Thanksgiving holidays, whenever it's occurred prior to starting back up in January, has any of that whatsoever been attributed to anything voiced by parents around the COVID situation, the masks, the protocols?
Yes, at least one of the families expressed that was their, and it's the one that I shared the email with you previously. They withdrew their children and they are going to homeschool. They don't want to put them in any system. So there are other views, I think, about education for the family, but they did share that the masks physically harm children that they shouldn't be breathing in their own oxygen, other things like that that have been disproven. But they just said they are not putting their child in any school. So they are just keeping them home to educate them on their own. And it was the one family that I had invited to come to the meeting this month, and they came out of the break and just said they're keeping them home.
Quick
Okay,
question for
understood.
Steve. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Steve, do you have an exit form that parents fill out when they do withdraw their children? Okay, I thought you would.
Yes, ma'am. And they noted the masking was their obligation, because we track all of that. But the majority of the departures were they've either moved or they had a job transfer, or they're moving within Raleigh, within the triangle, or they're moving out. Like we had the family that moved to Miami. We have another family moving to California. And so those are what we see most of the time, as you all who are teachers may remember. Sometimes kids just don't come back from break, and that's when their parents break it to them that they're not returning. But we
And
are
I just-
already backfilling. We had several students start today that we invited, last week to be here. So
And Steve, I only
Numbers
asked that
are great.
question. I only asked that question just to have transparency and be informed and understand that.
absolutely.
That is certainly not any commentary on our current policy or our future expectations. It's just to understand what's
Sure.
behind those movements and those actions. So it sounds like 99.9% of it was the traditional causes or reasons that we
Yes.
normally see.
And I will, if I may, add that although we have had a huge leap in the number of COVID exposed, we have had a few teachers and staff members, but the majority have been students who were exposed either from a sibling or a parent in their household as soon as they came back from break. I have gotten several communications from parents thanking us and thanking you all as a board for keeping this going. As we've learned through parents in the community, some of the other nearby charter schools have quietly gone mask optional, and or some of the other private schools. And so they are very thankful, having seen the number of people since last Monday that we've had to ask to quarantine. They're very happy with you all in your most recent decision to continue to mask.
I'm-
When all of a sudden, when we have
I guess I
75
could say
people with
that's.
one-
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you, Steve. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was saying when we have 75 people within a week that all of a sudden are exposed or have it because of what we presume are interactions over the break or interactions with people since the break, since 2 days is the bottom of the exposure window, it is much appreciated by our staff as well.
Navigating the unknown.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to do? So, Steve, tell us a little bit about, I don't want to belabor the principal's report, but U.S. News and World Report.
Yes, that was one we were notified of, that peak. Our middle school is now, North Carolina charter schools were number 8, based on our middle school specific performance. And that is based on our data that we are most recently have been an A-rated school and exceeded growth. Our middle school in particular was rated number 8 in North Carolina based on that data. And then they did not do anything, as we understand, with this current year because North Carolina had said they're not counting it, for lack of a better word. But we are still finding a lot of parents reaching out to us because of the school digger analysis and reporting of the data of our ranking as number 32 highest elementary school and 23rd ranked middle school, just based on school performance data last year. So it's great news. It was a great surprise to receive that email. Middle school staff is really excited and lifted up by that.
That's
Well,
awesome.
That is
Yeah.
great.
Please convey to everyone, because it's a team effort, obviously. Got to have a good coach, but it's a team effort. And as I read through that article and they mentioned, they mentioned some of the other accomplishments and awards and recognition. By all means, please let everybody from low to high or whatever in the ranking that the board could not be happier with all of you guys.
Well, thank you.
Top
And one of the
leadership
things that
down.
well, thank you. And one of the things we really, and I've always focused on in my career, is that we try to call ourselves a horizontal organization, because the role that anybody plays, no matter what their role, contributes to these successes. And so we don't want anybody to ever feel that they do less or more. And so the equity among the contributions of our team are reflected in the equity of the celebration. So thanks for that.
Once
Yes.
again, very impressed. So before we move on, board, I'll ask again, any other questions or any elaborations we need from Steve on the principal report?
It's a
All right,
good
so
one.
And
if it's a good one, yeah, I agree. I agree, Diane. It's a very good one. They're always good, but sorry, Steve.
Yes, yes.
if I may also add, our team just wants to celebrate you all as a board for Board Appreciation Month. We've already emailed you pictures of some of the banners and different things our scholars made. And then there's also some individual letters that different people wrote to different board members. So I'll be sending them to you this afternoon. So you'll have those as well. I'm sorry you're not here to see the banners that people have hung up, but I took some photos of them and sent them all to you to the Peak board. And then the individual things that people made, we'll send those to you individually.
Thanks.
Awesome.
So thanks for
Very
believing in
nice.
us
Thank
and for your
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Sweet,
you so
sweet.
much.
Mm.
Well, and let's hope and pray that at some time soon, at some celebratory event, that we can actually physically visit the school and come and
Yeah.
and interact with folks. I promise to wash my hands
Absolutely.
and wear my mask. I'll wear my mask that has this smiley on it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much. All right, so if we are finished with the principal report and all that detail, Khaditra, can you give us a quick rundown on the board fund report, please?
This is as of December the 20th, 2021. Your available balance is $42,586.66. And that, of course, will go until June 30, 2022. If it remains unspent, it will roll over. Any questions about your board fund report?
And Michelle, I don't know if you had any. I didn't see anything that was unexpected or made me raise an eyebrow. And I won't make any jokes about how we can spend that money because that could be immediately misconstrued by somebody. So, and sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to speak over you. You're good.
I'm good.
Okay.
I
All
have
right.
a question. I have a question, please. So if we, and this is not on the agenda, I should have noted it. If we do the luncheon for the February, which we did not do for December, is that budgeted in here, or is there a special line item, or how does that work?
Well, I think we would just need to designate and take action on it, right?
Okay, okay.
Steve, did
Right,
you
right,
include it
Khaditra,
in our original funds? Did you include it in funds earlier this year?
That's what I was.
Yes,
I
it's under
couldn't-
recognition.
Okay.
I thought we had it in there.
Okay, I see it. Administrative staff recognition.
Yes, and even
But that's
above
not-
that, that was 2021. If you look at third line down from the top, there's a 21-22 recognition. And as I recall, it was included in that. There
How
was
much
that
is
one,
it?
and then there was one at the end of the year. And so that was already in the budget that I requested and you all approved.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah,
Thank
there it
you.
is.
So it's part of that 1,700 is what you're saying?
Yes, that 1,700 was, as was discussed earlier in the year, for the board to recognize the staff at
Right.
teacher appreciation, as well as, or at the end of the year, depending on what PTA does, and then in February.
Okay, thank you.
And thank y'all for doing that. They'll appreciate it.
I'll be in touch with you, Steve.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk anytime, Barbara.
Thank you.
I'd
I
like to
just
see
don't-
us try to make that a board attending event,
I do want to
If-
point out,
Okay.
if possible.
I do
Sorry,
want to
Khadija.
point out, I'm sorry, I do want to point out, I'm looking at that line item now. If you look on page 8 of your PDF, it looks like that particular line item that was 1,700 only has $375.70 remaining.
Hmm.
Well, now on the flip side of that print, if you guys received your printed package from NHA for this meeting, on the flip side of that, we have a blue heading or excuse me, a blue banner heading that says, oh wait, did I get my dates wrong? Board,
That's for
admin,
last-
staff. Yeah, doggone it. Hang on. Shoot.
If we were looking.
Okay,
at-
never mind. Never mind. I've got the wrong dates.
And
So
I'm
it would
looking and
be-
wondering why Model School Conference was put
Mhm.
under recognition. I think that's in error. Unless that came from the rollover,
Mhm.
but the model school should not have come out of that. It should have come out of 2020-21 because we did have money left over. So I guess everything was rolled over, but that model school funding was when you all approved the professional development
Mhm.
with the
The
leftover
funds
funds
there.
last year. I'm not sure why it was put under 21-22, and especially under the recognition for teachers.
So while
Is that
that's
something
getting-
you can look into?
Well, even if I
Yes.
look into it, it's not going to help you guys for right now if you're trying to do something in February. So what I would recommend is that you do approve funds to, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing, that you do approve funds in order to do the luncheon in February until this is cleaned up. Because of course it's gonna,
We won't see it
Accounting-
until February. Yeah.
yeah, accounting is gonna have to go through the whole process of
Sure.
reversing that, so.
Khaditra, help support us
Yeah.
here. Do we need to add that as a discussion and then an action item?
You can actually take action now if you already know what you want to do. So if you have an amount that you want to spend for the luncheon, you can just go ahead and make that motion now. And I've already made notes that this was incorrectly put under this particular account, so I can get that fixed
Categorized.
on the back end. But that's all you guys have to do.
Barbara, what would that amount be?
1,000.
I was gonna say, Barbara, what's our number? Is
1,000, I think. I think that would be good.
And it's just a staff luncheon.
Uh-huh.
Staff appreciation and recognition luncheon for February, $1,000. Can one of you please make a motion?
I
This
make
is-
a motion. This is Cheryl. I make a motion. We approve the $1,000 for the staff luncheon.
This is
Second.
Paula. I second it.
Thank you, ladies. Khaditra,
Scott?
can you run us through?
Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right, motion approved.
Great. Well, I'm glad that came up. So thank you, Barbara, for asking the questions, because apparently we headed off a emergency short meeting that we would have to, that we would have to squeeze in somewhere. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
all right. So if we are done with section 4, which is our management reports, and I believe we are, we will move on to section 5, discussion items. Our first item, and one of my favorites, 5A, identifying potential board members. Does anyone have any notions or feelers, or anybody contact you, or anybody on deck possibly for potentially interest in joining the board? And if no, that's perfectly
No,
fine.
no.
It's not like it's not like your garden and all the peppers pop out on the plant at one time, you know.
And Scott,
Sometimes we go through dry periods.
Scott, I have a suggestion. I think we need to relook at the questions maybe that we ask potential board members, because number one question may be, are you willing to serve as president if you are if you are added to the board? So I just think that we might need to look at those questions to see if we need to revise them.
Well, and thank you, Dixie, for bringing that up, and thank you for your communication via email. And this is the appropriate place to go ahead and lump the president's office matter into item 5A. And I don't think we have time to really brainstorm here at the meeting. I mean, we're doing okay on pace. We could, but I have to tell you guys, I've been thinking about, well, we haven't been able to identify anyone over our past 6 months. And I've started trying to think outside of the box with respect to, I mean, you can't place an ad and say, you know, now hiring board president for Peak Charter Academy. It's not, I mean, you know, we can't approach it that way, but I wonder if you guys, if you don't mind thinking about some more unconventional methods of perhaps socializing this out to, and tell me if I'm wrong, but socializing this out to, for instance, our school community and those parents, and not necessarily seeking a parent, not seeking anybody in, you know, not seeking any particular type of person or from a particular group, but I feel like there's not enough awareness around the fact that we have a vacancy in the presidency with the board. I just don't, I think we're the ones who know about it. Mm-hmm. And nobody within our parental, you know, outside of Michelle, nobody within our parental community, you know, our parents of our kids, I don't think this is common knowledge. And I'm not saying that we reach out to the parents and say, hey, any of you parents interested in becoming school board president? Because we need somebody who's going to be dedicated. We need to screen this position appropriately. But I have these thoughts of, you know, well, maybe one of those parents knows somebody who is retired from education or retired. Maybe a parent may know of someone who is a volunteer spirit. We're going to have to do something to expand. We got to expand beyond the board. We will never find a president if it's just this community in this small circle saying, we need somebody to fill the president role. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, because we just keep doing the same thing each month. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean this in a negative way, in any way, shape, or form. I am not prepared to fulfill the position, and I have complete respect for any of you who say, either I'm not interested or I'm not prepared to fill that officer's role, that ultimate leadership role for the board. So I don't know. That's just something I thought of over the holidays. I thought, could we have an impact by socializing this out to our school community?
Scott, this is Dixie. I'm interested in hearing from Donna and Khadidra if they are aware that other boards have had a similar issue and how did they solve it?
Good point.
So,
would either of you ladies care to throw in?
Sure. From my perspective, I think I spoke briefly at the last board meeting, just to caution the board that you are governed by your bylaws, and your bylaws specifically provide for the officers that you'll have, including the president, which are to be elected annually. And under a clean reading of your bylaws, the board as an entity simply has a responsibility to elect those officers once a year. I can certainly recall situations where individual boards have had challenges, including challenges as you guys have had periodically and have talked about with replacing board members and replacing officers. So yes, I've seen plenty of other boards have the similar challenge. I don't know of anybody doing anything particularly creative because again, you are a nonprofit corporation governed by North Carolina law and by your bylaws. So I would suggest to you, there's actually a limit to using creativity, quite frankly, for this. I mean, at the end of the day, the board has to have the officers that are set out in the bylaws.
Do we have the powers, as the board, do we have the power to amend our bylaws? I believe the answer is yes.
You can amend your bylaws. You have to get approval from the Office of Charter Schools. And I would suggest to you that's going to put a bit further, perhaps, boundary on creativity. Don't want to squelch creativity, but it is a matter of sort of fundamental governance under the nonprofit corporation law and under your charter. I think the State Board of Education has an expectation that you'll sort of function as a normal nonprofit. I won't say anything else.
Who says we're normal? Khaditra, any thoughts or adds on that, or board? Any reflection on that? I mean, we have to address this and we have to accomplish something here.
I just support what Donna was just saying. And, you know, like the main thing are the bylaws. So just making sure that you are adhering to your bylaws.
Which again, we can amend if we wish to do so, but we have to get them approved by the government, of course.
And this is all from, you know, no one wanting to take the lead as being the president of the board, correct?
Under the current circumstances,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
what we're dealing with.
Gotcha.
I think each of us in our own ways may look at that position and say, well, you know, I could do it, or I mean, I think we've all weighed that. I would hope that you all of you have considered that or have weighed that as a potential option for you individually.
This is Donna. I have one other recommendation that just occurred to me.
Yes, ma'am.
And bear with me, it's not going to sound particularly creative, I warn you. That is in terms of the process of resolving this. You guys have dutifully discussed it in multiple meetings, as you mentioned. You might consider setting up a committee. It doesn't have to be particularly fancy or a large committee, or, you know, no expectation that it's going to last an extended period of time, but perhaps 2 or 3 of you could get together. I'd be happy to assist you and discuss this more in a committee and try to come up with a specific resolution or 2 or 3 recommendations and bring that back so that the board as a whole doesn't have to kind of repeat the same conversation as often as you needed to so far.
Actually, I think that's an excellent suggestion. So as a committee, Donna, would you see the committee being formed up on a volunteer basis, or would a temporary acting president be able to appoint the committee?
I'd recommend volunteer. I mean, again, inherent to the problem, I'd recommend volunteer.
Okay. Understood. I didn't mean anything by what I said then, but, you know, appointing, volunteering, usually one works faster than the other.
Heard it
Thank you,
called
Donna.
voluntold.
Voluntoling. Yeah, that's, I'm familiar with that terminology from my long corporate career. Yeah, voluntold. Nice. Well, I'll tell you what, unless you guys have further conversation that we want to share at this point in time, I want to reflect on that a little bit, and I want you guys to think about between now and February meeting. See what your heart says about this and see if this is something that, if you're not willing to be president, perhaps you're willing to be a presidential committee member. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We'll close out 5A and move on to 5B, the ever popular proposed sale of school facilities or refinance initiative. I'm not sure where we stand on this
We stand
as
where
far as a document.
Yeah, as far as the documents are concerned, we're still on hold right now. So we're in the position that we were in last month. So I would just like this to remain on the agenda each month, and as updates are provided, I will provide them to the board. And Donna can add anything that she has spoken to Mr. Plunkett about if you've had a conversation.
I would echo Ms. Cooper's comments that indeed my understanding is that we are on hold with documents, but NHA still has a plan for resuming the work this year, probably very, very shortly. I have continued to receive periodic communication from Mr. Plunkett, the attorney for NHA, and he is conveying that that is still the plan. And I will, alongside Khaditra, continue to keep you posted as we have new information.
Terrific. Maybe we can make that 10-15 deadline this year, since that's a few months out. Thanks, Donna, and thank you, Khaditra. Any questions, you guys? I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep glossing over that. Please feel free to speak up at any point if I'm looking to move on and you have questions. So I apologize for that. I think we are going to move into 5 here. Well, 2 of those I think kind of go hand in hand. 5C and D, the personal profile update and the board member snapshot form. Khaditra, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll speak to that really quickly. Due to the fact that we're meeting remotely, what I'm going to do is send you guys the Word version of the personal profile form and also the board member snapshot. It's just it's pretty much all it is. And you just update it accordingly. If you don't have any updates to add, you can say no updates. If you still, some people keep theirs from the prior year. So if you still have yours from the prior year, you can just say no updates. But if you would just fill the form out and have it back to me, let's say January 21st, that will be great. And I'll make sure that's documented in the minutes.
Yeah, make sure that's in big bold print in Khaditra, in the email communication.
Okay.
So none of us miss the deadline. Thank you. Sorry, Donna.
That's okay to know. If I can just make a brief comment, Khaditra, I think, has heard this before, although not recently. Under the board member snapshot form in your packet, you have, I think at page 8, a description of what this is, and it looks very, very routine, and I certainly don't have any problem or dispute with it. I will note that there's a statement that the information is meant for internal NHA use and will not be distributed to external parties. My experience is that that's exactly what happens, but I would just caution you that there's nothing that would prevent this from being considered a public record, and theoretically someone could request it. They would, in my opinion, be able to get access to it. The actual form is on page 9, which I really appreciate NHA putting the snapshot. I think this is the snapshot form, right, Khaditra?
Let me go to page, is it 9 or 10?
No, it's on page 9 of my printed out PDF.
Oh, printed out packet, yes.
Okay, and so, I mean, there's not really, in my opinion, anything here that is of concern. I do note that they ask you for an interesting personal fact. So as counsel to the board, I would caution you to exercise good judgment in sharing the interesting personal fact that you might want to put in there, because again, there is a scenario under which this would be a public record.
Excellent advice. Yeah, let's keep those hobbies PG. Thank you, Donna. Khaditra, sorry, let's keep going with that. I think did you have more to?
Just the personal profile update form and board member snapshot will be sent to you via email in a Word document to complete and send back to me by January 21st. Board terms and resignations. This is just a general annual time in which we talk about this information. The only thing that I do at this point is I kind of remind everyone of their terms as they currently stand, just in case you're unaware. So Scott, your current term expires April 4th, 2024. Michelle, yours is the same date of April 4th, 2024. Barbara, June 7th, 2023. Diane, April 1st, 2024. Dixie, April 6th, 2025. Nicholas, September 3rd, 2023. Paula, September 3rd, 2023. Cheryl, June 30th, 2025. And I'm sure we don't have any resignations because you guys would have already had that conversation, but you know, we all know life happens. So if life happens, just let us know as soon as possible.
And Khaditra, with respect to the board self-evaluation, is there a desired timeline?
That's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Due to the fact that we initially started this conversation, I think it was in November that it was coming up. So now is pretty much the time to let us know, when would you like to see this on the agenda? I know last year, and I spoke about this the last time we had this discussion, is that you guys had like 4 or 5 surveys due at one time. And that's one thing that I honestly do not want to happen to you all this year. So just making sure that we get that board self-evaluation on a board agenda, and also the evaluation of NHA. If you liked the Google form that we did last year, I can do that again. And then pretty much you just complete it in 1 month, print everything, and make sure it's in the packet for the next month for us to review at an actual meeting. Any questions? We can start in
Deidre,
February.
is that, excuse me,
Yes, Cheryl.
since I'm new, is that something that we would do collectively as a group and submit one form, or everybody completes it individually?
Well, the board self-evaluation, and that's why I did it in a Google form last year, because it made it a lot easier, because everyone's information pretty much like combined on one form. So with the board self-evaluation, it's just you evaluating, you know, you go through these questions and evaluate yourself and how you see like strengths of the board as well. And then with the other is the NHA evaluation. But when you see the actual Google form, you'll kind of see that it's going to be compiled with, by the time it's done, it's going to have like all responses on there. And then when we review them, you will see what everyone has said collectively.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Does to me. Thank you, Cheryl, for that question. Board, what do you, team, the question to you guys is, I mean, I definitely agree with what Khaditra just said, and I would like to see us kind of space that out. At the same time, none of this stuff is horribly time consuming or difficult. So I believe something like like having this completed by March doesn't seem like an unreasonable timeline. Any thoughts on that?
You're talking about line item F, right? The self-evaluation by March.
Well, I guess I was thinking of it, honestly, Diana, I was thinking of it kind of more holistically. Like, so we've got to do the NHA evaluation. We've got to do the board self-evaluation. Khaditra, I'm blanking out on, I thought there was a third one.
It's a principal evaluation that's going to be done.
Yes, Steve. We don't want to put that off. But sorry, Diane, that's kind of what I was thinking is kind of more holistically, those 3 major areas that we evaluate or rate. And that's why I was thinking having it done by March. I was just kind of thinking, well, that gives us basically 8 weeks plus or minus to stretch or to spread out the three. Speaking to Khaditra's point of last year, it seems like they kind of all dropped at one time, or at least it felt like that.
Then don't forget you have the NHA, the board satisfaction survey, which actually comes out in March, April timeframe. So I would honestly recommend that whatever survey you start, that maybe you have it the first one complete by the end of February, and then you'll be ready for March, and then kind of just keep going month to month with various evaluations.
Okay. When do we traditionally do the one for Steve?
That's going to be dependent upon Doug's schedule. So since this will be Doug's first year of doing these with the boards, I just need to kind of check in with him and see what this looks like. Because I know last year, you guys remember, Zach has sent out a Google Doc for the boards to complete versus coming to the meeting.
Right.
So I need to see which format Doug is going to use. Will he, participate at a meeting, or will he be sending anything electronically?
Gotcha. Well, team, it's January 11th. I think if we follow through and Khaditra sends us the board self-evaluation in the digital format or the online format, I just my opinion, we're a democracy here. I would think having that completed by the end of January would be a easily achievable goal. But if you guys have any objections, speak up.
That's fine with me.
Agreed.
Cheryl?
Cheryl's on board.
Yeah.
Sounds like pretty much
Yes,
kind of
I'm
everybody
on
else
board.
is.
Yeah.
And to be clear, are we talking about 3 evaluations or 4 total?
You're actually going to have, for the year, you're going to have 4, because you're going to have your board self-evaluation. You also have the evaluation of NHA. Then you're going to have your board satisfaction survey.
Right, that's what
and then you'll have your principal evaluation.
Well, voice of the people. All right. But Dixie, good question, and thanks. Because that was kind of gnawing at me. I was thinking, am I forgetting a 4th? I don't want to embarrass myself and mention
right. No, but I was thank you.
But with respect to a January 31st completion date, that would just be the board self-evaluation based off of Khaditra providing us the digital ability to do it through the computer. So if
we do the board self, I was just going to say, we do the board self-evaluation, complete that by the end of January, and then maybe, and then we'll talk about this, of course, next month, but the NHA evaluation, maybe have that complete by the end of February. And then we can discuss both at the March board meeting.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Like we'll eat that elephant a little bit at a time. Perfect. All right. I believe, board, unless you have any additions to any of our discussion items or follow-up questions, I believe that concludes our discussion items section. And we will need to have a motion from the floor for closed session for the purposes of employment discussion.
This is Dixie. I move that we go into closed session.
This is Cheryl. I second it.
Sorry, just want to make sure we're following this correctly. Dixie, can you restate that, please? The closed session is for purposes of employment discussion.
All right. I move that we go into closed session for the purposes of board personnel.
I'm sorry. Can I just interject? Confidential personnel will help us track more cleanly with the open meetings law. And I think you got that. If you need a ready reference in your minutes, I believe from a prior meeting. Yeah, if you look at page 17 of the packet, you've got your standard closed session motion that would be appropriate for confidential personnel information.
Oh, okay, good.
And I think Khaditra does an awesome job of having it in your minutes, but it's helpful to use as complete a reference in your actual motion as possible. just to make sure we're checking all the boxes.
So Dixie, if you would
Okay.
just please restate that with
Oh,
with the
okay,
purpose,
thank you.
purpose being confidential personnel matters.
Right. I move that we go into closed session to discuss confidential personnel matters.
This is Cheryl. I second it.
Khaditra, can you run us through real quick?
I sure can. Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right. It is 12:56, and I will go ahead and put you all in a breakout room. Hold on one moment.
And thank you, Dixie.
Thank you, Scott.
Sorry for all that detail.
No, it's about learning. Thank you.
Love Dixie's tractor. I think I get a little envious every time I see that tractor, and I think I'd like to have one of those. Alrighty, so out of closed session, and we will move on to our action items. I will make you guys aware that I have a hard stop at 1:30 due to, guess what, another meeting. So let's go ahead and run through our action items, new business, and any public comment efficiently. So our first action item, 7A, sorry, Khaditra, did you have something? I apologize.
I was just gonna say that we skipped over the amended budget prior to going into closed session. It's in the packet, 17 of your PDF or 15 of the packet.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I'm sorry I glossed over it. We should have added that, I think, to section 5.
Did you want to G? Yeah, it's G, item G.
Oh, no, on the action items, or wait. I don't have an item G on my section 5. So
Okay, there
if we,
must have been an updated agenda because
I
whenever
don't
my
either.
packet was printed, I didn't have a G under
Yeah.
500.
Okay.
No, I don't either.
Disregard. I guess you'll see it next month. I'm looking. Okay.
yeah, if you don't mind, let's just go ahead and roll with that to next month.
Yep.
I did do a complete review of the amended budget, and at least me personally, there was nothing that made me raise eyebrows or made me jot down a list of information or questions rather. And Michelle is our treasurer, and me with both of us with the financial background. We'll make a point of making sure the amended budget, and Khaditra, if you can make sure that's on our discussion items and then our action items for next month. Do we have any time pressures?
No, you're fine.
From the NH. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, in that case, sorry, I didn't have a G on mine, and I may not have been listening at the outset if Khaditra mentioned that and we added it. So my apologies. As far as our action items, 7A, this is approval of the December 7th, 2021 board meeting minutes. I went through that and compared it to last month's package and notes that I had. I didn't identify any changes. Do we have any changes or additions that need to be noted before we look to approve those board meeting minutes?
Anna?
I have a couple items.
I was counting on that, Donna. I mean, just from the supreme thoroughness. Go ahead, Council.
The first item under the non-board members attending, I have a set of notes suggesting I was there. I can't say I have an independent recollection of that, but the notes pretty much look like my notes, so I'm pretty sure I was there. And on page 2 of 5, under principals report highlights, this is a nitpicky item, but maybe of value. Under the second bullet, we say 1 part-time staff member tested positive, no exposures were noted from Steve's report. I just have the recommendation to remove part-time. I'm not sure it really has any value so far as the minutes are concerned. And the more information you put down there, the more likely it is that that person is identifiable, which would not be good. Again, a little nitpicky, nothing on Steve, but just a little recommendation for minutes purposes. On page 3 of 5, there are a couple of places where the word revised appears to be misspelled. I think it's supposed to be revised. Under 5 discussion items B, the following area was not REVIED in the updated document. Does everybody else see that?
Yes.
Yeah. And then down below, the sentence is to be reviews before. Just make sure revised is spelled correctly.
Where's the other one, Donna?
I'm sorry, say again.
Where's the other one?
The first full sentence below the bullet points, the sentence is to be revised, I believe is supposed to be there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, and then my last item is on page 4 of 5, under 7 action items C, appointment of board president. We had conversation about that under your bylaws, the task is actually election. And it's been revised, for example, for your agenda today, but we talked about that in that meeting. Rather than appointment, it should be election. And it may be helpful to note that there was a discussion of the requirements of the bylaws, so that the record reflects that the board has been attentive, even though there's been a challenge in getting someone elected, that you've discussed and paid attention to the fact that your bylaws require it.
So appointment to election.
Right.
Should have caught that one. And Donna, let me ask you, so I appreciate the accuracy. Is it normally part of assuring that the minutes are accurate to include spelling, grammar, and punctuation?
That's an
Or is it
awesome-
more so to convey the correct
Mhm.
convey the correct thought when you read
Right.
something like this?
That is an awesome question. Here would be my response. I have seen boards go from one end to the other. There are boards, and Khaditra, don't laugh or call any names. There are boards who will spend a significant amount of time correcting capitalization, punctuation, all of that. It's up to the board. It is true that at the end of the day, you want accurate minutes, and also it's, I think, appropriate to be mindful that your minutes reflect your board, and you run a school. So I don't have a problem with, folks spending a few minutes to make sure that they, reflect such a board.
So I'm going to suggest to our team that, because honestly, as I read through it, I saw the revise, and immediately, Donna, I thought, well, that's supposed to say revised, and thought nothing more of it. Just that I understood, but I'm glad we're having the conversation, because it needs to be an accurate reflection of what was done. None of us are going to remember, should there ever be a question or a challenge placed to the board about what we did or when we did it. I'm not going to remember last June, or I won't remember last December, honestly, just because of the volume of information. So I think that as a board, we should look at the draft of the prior meetings minutes and make a more dutiful review of it, so that, because I think collectively we're going to catch more than any one of us would individually. So my ask to the board is, going forward, that we look at it and review it closer. And to Donna's point, and it made me giggle, but we do govern a school. So yeah, spelling and grammar counts, especially in the case where that grammar or that spelling may change the definition or the understanding or the perception of what's included in the meeting minutes, just simply because we missed a comma, or something like that, an error. So Khaditra, did you capture everything
I did.
from
I
our
have it.
counselor?
I wrote it down.
Okay.
That's
Well,
fine.
in that case, then I think thank you, Donna, for your usual thoroughness. I think then we need to go ahead and have a motion from the board, from the directors, from the floor, to approve minutes as amended.
This is Diane. I make a motion to approve the December minutes as amended.
Thanks, Diane.
This is Dixie. I second.
Thank you, Tractor Lady. Khaditra, could we run through real quick?
Yep, Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Abstain, I was not here.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
I think I wasn't here for that meeting too.
Paula,
Thanks, Nick.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys very much. All right, 7B, approval of the personnel hire. So as discussed in closed session, I believe we'll need a motion here to approve the personnel hire. I don't know that Don, I can't remember if we don't mention anybody's name, I don't think.
Yes, we do.
We do?
That's the way you
Okay.
have documentation that you indeed hired that person.
I remembered it exactly the opposite of what it was, of what it's supposed to be. So, board, can we have a motion from the floor for the approval of the personnel hire of Margot Hansen?
This is Paula. So moved. This is Paula. I second it.
Thank you, ladies. Khaditra?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Michelle.
Michelle?
Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All righty, thank you. So item 7C is election of board president. I don't see any necessity for any type of motion or voting on this at this time. Our next item is 7D. Reconfirmation of the face covering policy. And I believe if you need to see that, that was, I think it was basically at the very end of our packet. I believe. Anyhow, we have not, nothing has been proposed for any changes to our current face mask policy. So if we can't, now, we really didn't have any discussion on this. I don't know that any discussion is needed, but certainly don't want to squash that discussion if the board members have any updates or commentary or anything on the face mask policy. So we'll pause for that for just a second. Any input there, team? All righty then. I would ask for a motion from the floor then for reconfirmation of our existing face coverings policy. And Donna, let me ask a question. As acting president or vice president, as officer, as the facilitator of a monthly board meeting, am I specifically restricted or otherwise governed for presenting a motion? I always ask the board to present the motions and the seconds.
The common practice is that the person leading the meeting, president, vice president, does not usually make motions. In my experience, that's more of a common practice than a requirement. To my knowledge, you have not adopted any formal rules of procedure, and you're not required to. So there are not any formal rules of procedure that would prohibit that, but it is common practice that someone else makes the motion.
Understood, and thank you. I like that detail. All right then. Once again, I would ask from the floor, from our board, can we please have a motion for reconfirmation of the face coverings policy?
This is Dixie. I move that we reconfirm the face covering policies as submitted.
Thank you, Dixie.
This is Michelle. Second.
Thanks, Michelle. Khaditra?
Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right.
All righty. Thanks, you guys. Item 7E, we are going to table to be picked up again in February. And the next item is item 7E. Oh, I beg your pardon. I apologize. Item 7F, that is the appointment for the 21-22 year for our audit firm. We did not specifically discuss this. We have had great success with Plant Moran. I don't want to speak out of turn on reappointing Plant Moran or usurp any conversation from the board. So I'm going to pause for just a moment before we look for a motion on this. Any concerns from the team around engaging Plant Moran for our 21-22 audit year? Okay, that being the case. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut somebody off? Okay, thanks. In that case, can we have a motion from the floor, from the board for appointment of the 21-22 audit firm and confirmation of Plant Moran as our given choice?
This is Paula, so moved.
Thanks, Paula.
Diane, I second it.
Thank you, Diane. Kaditra?
Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes.
Thank you guys very much. Now, the last item, and I have to apologize because I have this thing all highlighted and everything that I felt like I needed to focus on, which is our Peak Charter Academy offered seats schedule, which we have as an action item for approval, yet we have not discussed it. So again, I think we need to take pause for just a moment. Have you had the is that backwards when I show that? I think it is.
No.
At the very back of your packet, numbered page 39 in my printed packet that I received in the mail. Oh, thank you, Khadija. Stop, get out of my head. You're reading my mind. So we have a slight change from the 21-22 enrollment to the offered seat schedule proposed for the 22-23 enrollment. Very, very similar, just very minuscule differences in the numbers for full day K and I think 8th grade. Yeah, 1st and 8th grade. So seeing this on the screen and being able to view this, any concerns around this? Do we need to table this, or can we go ahead and take action on it and approve the 22-23 enrollment seat schedule?
Scott,
Oh,
did you
wanted
want to
to-
discuss the differences where full K has 4 less students than last year? 1st grade, 1 less student. And 8th grade is 3 additional.
Plus three. Yeah. So that's what and board, that's what I was saying. I mean, I don't know that you specifically had reviewed this in any depth, but excuse me, when I looked at it, it's goodness, excuse me, kind of frog in my throat. It makes sense to me. Steve, I don't know if there's any need to speak to, full day K dropped by 4, 8th plus 3, 1st minus 1, or excuse me, plus 1. So they're very nominal differences between our grade levels. Board, I think unless we have any specific questions or concerns around what's being proposed for the enrollment numbers for 22-23, I believe we can move forward with confidence and go ahead and handle this item today, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Scott,
I guess I would
Scott,
say
I
at this.
have a question.
And I was going to say it the other way. Perhaps we should speak up if there is objection or the thought to table it for further information. So I'll stop there. And Donna, sorry, please go ahead.
And I'll try to be brief. My sense is that you probably can move forward today. This is something you've done previously, and it's another one of those things that you rely on your most able principal, Mr. Pond, and whatnot. I do question the statement at the very beginning of the document that the school has set enrollment at 761. I don't understand what that means. That seems contrary to the notion that this is a board decision. and enrollment is typically a board decision. I don't know if anybody can speak. And again, I don't want to hold up your process because you certainly want Mr. Pond to have what he needs to move forward. But I just raised that question. And it may be a matter of semantics, but I think perhaps important semantics.
Well, that's a 202 count delta between the two numbers. So Steve, can you elaborate on that for us?
Steve, you're on mute.
Come in.
Uh-oh.
You're still on mute. Hold on.
Scott, just so you know, my question was not the difference in the numbers. It was the language that the school has set enrollment. But maybe.
Well, the difference in the numbers is the reason we see that statement, right?
Well, I think there are different issues, but let me suggest deferring to Steve.
Go ahead, Steve.
Can you hear me now? I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Low though.
Cool, thank you. The 761 is the same total enrollment that we've had since we have been full, and it was the one that you all approved last year. I'm sorry about the semantics of the document. The 963 is the maximum amount that we are allowed to approve without violating our charter agreement. We don't have any plans to do that, but it's built within the charter agreement. The only thing I wanted to share is that the drop from 92 to 88 in kindergarten is because of our high level of re-enrollment in kindergarten over the first 5 years. We have over-enrolled our first grade and sometimes have had 30, 31 in a classroom, which makes it very difficult from dropping from 92 to 84 traditionally that our schools do. We didn't want to overburden the teachers in first grade or upset the parents and even the students, because such a high level of 4 groups of 23 was funneling into 3 groups of, or 3 other classes that total comprised 84. Last year, they reduced the 8th grade to 81 was the recommendation from NHA, because that's traditionally a year where we're not full. Because if people leave in 7th grade, there aren't a lot of students that want to move in to a school for 1 year. We tend to make that up anyway by oversubscribing in each grade level, where we'll always have the makeup, where we'll still hit our total number on average. But because we've now had 5 years of full kindergarten at 92 or even 93, depending on multiple birth siblings, I asked and we wanted to make sure we could reduce that to 22 in a classroom to help control the negative impact on first grade teachers and families. But other than that, it's still a total of 761. And we do oversubscribe a little bit, especially within the first 20 days, so we can make sure that we have a full school.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lost Scott.
Scott, you're on mute.
Nope,
There you
I
go.
apologize for that dead air. I won't regale you with the reason why. So Steve, a follow-up question. Peak's maximum charter enrollment is 963. What's the foundation behind that number? Is that something as simple as maximum occupancy of the building, or?
We are not able to increase over 11%. So that each year has always been the cushion for the maximum number that's been included in this offered seat schedule. So it is noted for purposes of that's the highest we'll ever go. The most we ever try to go to ensure the average daily membership and enrollment are where they should be is at the beginning of the year, we always try to enroll 1 extra student per classroom, just because we know somebody who accepted a seat is not going to show up in August. And so we keep that going until at least the 20th day of school. So we make sure that we reach that minimum of 761 enrolled.
Has that
But
mathematical
the
approach?
963 is that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that 11% is what would bump up even further. And it says in the document that those increases would violate the school charter complex. So that's why the bigger number is there. We always target 761, which is why sometimes the report will say 758 or 764 because of the variance that we may have during the year that a student has left and a new student has been offered the seat but has 5 days to accept. And it's just whenever I write the report, I give you the accurate on that day.
So Donna, your original concerns about that language, do you, in your opinion as counsel for the board, do you feel that that brings enough value add that we should delay this, or the fact that the board understands the how and the why of that language being used in this document? I mean, I don't think it needs to be amended.
Delay it. My point is the school, I question whether under your management agreement, the school sets enrollment. I don't think it needs to delay your process today. If I were to invite a revised document, it might say something like the school recommends. That was my only point, but I don't think it needs to stop your process today.
All right, good. That's my feeling too. So just as a follow-up, are you recommending that we look to go ahead and amend this document that Khadija was sharing?
I don't think you need to
Or that we understand it?
The latter.
Okay, thank you. All right, in that case then, board, and given the consideration of time, Scott has 3 minutes to jump on a very important meeting. Can we please have a motion from the floor for item 7G, and that is the approval of the 22-23 offered seats schedule?
So moved. This is Barbara.
This
Thank
is
you, Barbara.
Cheryl, I second.
All right, Scott,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All righty. All right, our next numbered item is new business, our next agenda. I think we've kind of already discussed that. Board, do you have any additional items that you would like to introduce as new business today and or for next meeting's agenda?
No.
All righty. Our second to last item is number 9, public comment. Khadija, I'm not aware of any public attendance today.
We do not.
All righty, then we'll move on from number 9 and move to number 10, which is adjournment. And I believe that we will need a motion for that.
Motion to adjourn. This is Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
This is Dixie. I second.
Thank you, Dixie.
Scott,
Yes,
Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
they're
Yes.
already pinging me.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
All right, meeting adjourned at 1:29.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys so very much.
Thank you,
Happy
Scott.
New
Good
Year
one.
to you.
Thanks, everybody.